Time to lock the door.
Yeah. That's usually my problem.
All right. Where's the script? No. Okay. Okay. Audio's live, though. So, well, I'm ready to go whenever you guys are ready. But I guess we'll be kind and wait 2 minutes. Unless I'm early. So how's your summer been, Dave?
Well, it's just starting to take some shape. So I'm trying to figure out if I go down to the Keys, stay in the Keys.
That's what I thought. I figured you would. I'm trying to figure out something nice to do that can involve me taking a baby and just calm and serene. Just got to figure that out.
Does the baby have to go with you? So when you say calm and serene.
To keep my wife calm, yes.
I'm joking. Yeah, that's always the.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Tough spot to be in. But
there's places. Go to the West Coast where the beach is, and you can take the baby on walks on the beach. That'd be calm and serene.
Yeah, I was thinking Key Largo or Naples. I remember Daytona Beach. I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking, man, this is a cool beach, but I never went back. And I always wanted to go back, but I never knew how to do it. Nobody talks it up. So I'm like, maybe it's lost its luster or trapped in time.
Yeah, I was only there once, and same here, spring breaking it. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Give me a countdown. Tilt it down a little bit sometimes.
Is that better? I'm losing me. I see Omar now, but I don't have me on camera. I wonder why that is. Okay, I see it. I see me now. Okay.
Fix your collar a little high.
Do what?
Fix your collar a little. It's a little frumpy rump dumpy. There we go. You don't have to button it. You just there you go. All right.
I have trouble getting dressed up.
It's the summer, Dave. Yeah. So we've experienced the highs and lows of the 2020 football season, a 10-win season. We survived the 2021 free agency cycle, which featured a few big signings, a lot of minimum deals. We've enjoyed the ride of the 2021 NFL draft. A lot of speedsters added, a pass rush has been added, and it clarified a lot of holes that we need to address when training camp rolls around. Well, the Dolphins had plenty of opportunity to address some of those things and get an early start with the offseason program and minicamp, which just wrapped. I am Omar Kelly, Sentinel columnist. This is my colleague, Hall of Famer Dave Hyde, and we are here to wrap up the 2-month process of the offseason program. Dolphins have moved their facility from Davie to Miami Gardens. There's a slide in their facility. Dave, are you excited about the slide?
Well, it's a shorter drive for me, so yeah, I'm excited about it. You know what? I went back to camp for the first time in 10 months this week for mini camp, and so it's been a strange year for everybody, and that gets including us covering teams.
So yes, you got to see people, Dave. See people. Yes, that's an important part. We're back outside. Obviously, the Dolphins have a month off generally, but players have to work out, but they're gearing up for the 2021 season. Dave, the Dolphins just wrapped training mini camp. 2 practices and helmets, Dave, just because of the agreement that Brian Flores made with the players for them to participate in the offseason program, which featured a lot of installs, a lot of boring practices. But they were out there. What did we learn about the 2021 team during this process?
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit. Big thing we learned about this offseason to me is they had a lot of bad free agent contracts from last year. And you pointed this out at the time last year. And I was like, well, they'll make it all work. They didn't make it work. You look at the people they threw overboard. This team is cutthroat, the people at the top. When after 1 year they're getting rid of, you can go down the list, Kyle Van Noy,
Shaq Lawson. Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 guys, including Bobby McCain, who was, he's a captain. He was a guy that they really respected.
Did everything right. Cutthroat business, Dave, and I talk about that all the time. You're right. If you just look at it, Brian Flores is on his 4th offensive line coach, his 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years. He is a cutthroat coach. But the one thing I will say and acknowledge about this whole process is I respect when things aren't right, that they don't have the patience to say, okay, maybe they'll fix themselves. No, they do something to fix it. And this has been a very cutthroat era of the organization. You don't get the job done, you're going to be shown the door. And a lot of those free agents that they signed, they drastically overpaid. And that leads us to our first question. Speaking of overpaid free agents, our first question comes from John Green, who asks, do you think it's possible that the Dolphins trade Xavier Howard before the season starts? And this question kind of becomes important because Xavier Howard skipped all of the offseason program. He skipped the mandatory minicamp, subjected himself to a $93,000 loss, Dave, just for not showing up for 2 practices. And he did it to send a message to the organization.
He did. And let's address the question, first of all, possible. Yes, it's possible. Do I think they'll trade him? No, I don't think they'll trade him. I think unhappily and maybe with feet dragging, Xavier Howard will come back to play this year because his base salary is $12.1 million, and at some point he won't want to give that up. Now, there's a larger question here to me in building a team, roster building, team chemistry, and contracts. And you show how team chemistry can get completely upset by wrong contracts. And they gave Byron Jones made him the richest cornerback in football, made Xavier Howard the 2nd highest paid cornerback on his team, even though a year before he was the richest cornerback. But when one guy has a great year in Xavier Howard and the other guy, he's fine. Byron Jones is a fine quarterback. He's just not the best cornerback in football, and he's paid that way. And that's when chemistry issues come into the locker room. And you're seeing it play out right now with Xavier Howard.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me because you know where I stand with this, Dave. I'm always pro player primarily because they're the ones that are making the sacrifice. They're the ones that are putting in the work. They're the ones who are going to be cut when their guaranteed monies are up. So get what you can get when you can get it. It has always been my philosophy. I'm proud of the organization for making sure they pay Jerome Baker instead of Jarvis Landrying him in terms of making him pay for peons to what he's worth. But money is such a factor in this dynamic. And while Xavier says it's about respect, it's really about money. Because Byron Jones, over the course of the 2020 season and the 2021 season, which is this upcoming year, will make $16 million more than him, Dave, for not even doing the same job. And I don't know who, no matter what if you're flipping fries at McDonald's and the guy next to you is flipping fries at McDonald's and is being paid twice as much as you, Dave, aren't you going to have a problem with that?
Yeah, if I'm doing, especially if I'm doing the better job, and I get that.
Make the best fries, Dave.
I get where Xavier Howard's coming from. At the same time, if I'm the Dolphins, you're also saying, look, 2 years ago we made you the richest cornerback in football. We bought into you. You've been injured 3 of your first 5 seasons, or you didn't play full seasons in 3 of your first 5 years. We bought into you, and we made you. We gave you the nice contract. So there has to be some give on his part too. That would be the Dolphins stand. And that's the interesting part in this. I think there are 2 legitimate stands. Where the Dolphins screwed up, and we've gone over this, is the Byron Jones contract. I mean, you throw that into with the other ridiculous contracts as it played out they gave. And what were they doing in free agency a year ago besides making it rain money?
Throwing away money. And hey, it's Steve Ross's money. Steve Ross has never, ever expressed any reservation about spending money. My thing is, you got to spend it wisely. Let's move on to our next question, which comes from Lloyd, who asks, isn't there collateral damage of X's holdout? For example, Noah doesn't get to go work into the slot role where
I don't think that's collateral damage. They'll get him work. They can get him work wherever they want to get him work. They can move him in and out, and yeah. You can say just as much there's collateral benefit. Xavier Howard isn't risking any injury during these silly workouts. And you look at San Francisco, which suffered a few major injuries, and you look at Xavier's injury history, and you say, okay, that's a good thing he's missing all this stuff. But they can get all these cornerbacks are getting extra work. The young cornerbacks are needed. So I would say I get what you're saying about questions or collateral damage. I'd say there's more collateral benefit to Xavier missing these workouts.
I agree. Noah Igbenogany, who had a rough rookie season, he's getting all the exclusive opportunity to play against the best receivers. He's going against Will Fuller and Devontae Parker and who else is the receiver? Preston's really not practicing, but he's going against Miami's best. He's getting to see that action. He's being challenged opportunities. And even Nick Needham's sliding on the outside, and Justin Coleman's working in on at the nickel spot. Brandon Jones is being elevated because maybe Jason McCourty has to go to nickel, and then there's a backup safety role. So everybody is getting in the action. Everybody's involved. And to be honest with you, what I saw in the offseason program, it was more walkthrough stuff. It was more installation stuff. There were 2 practices with helmets, and one of them I couldn't see, and one of them was horrible. Or it was great for the defense, but we'll talk about that later in the show. Cameron Sparks asks our next question. Which free agent pickup on defensive side of the ball are you the most excited to see, Dave?
Well, I don't know. I'm overly excited really about any of them, but I'm interested because of what it could say in Justin Coleman, the defensive back from Detroit and slot defensive back. 2 year, he signed a good contract in Detroit a couple years ago, had a bad season evidently last year, and so he came on the market, and so the question becomes, it's like a domino effect. Justin Coleman, why did they get him? One, you can never have enough cornerbacks. I get that, and that's a smart thing to do, but what do they think about Noah Igbenogany going into this year? Can he win a spot, or was that first round pick, a complete miss?
Noah was brought here to replace Xavier Howard.
Yes, and that's the other part of this. When go to last season with Xavier Howard, when they gave the big money to Byron Jones, when they drafted Igbenogany in the first round, I thought they're going to be getting rid of Xavier Howard here. Because you can't have two cornerbacks making that big money. But I think there was an Aaron Rodgers situation here when Aaron Rodgers said, I screwed it up by being the MVP of the league, meaning, the Packers wanted to get remove them out.
By being the defensive player of the year candidate?
Yes.
Very well put. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. But, bottom line is, Xavier, it's a standstill with him in the organization. They're not going to pay him. He's going to probably try to force them to trade him. They're probably not going to trade him. And ultimately, because of the new CBA, it's going to financially screw him to have a holdout. So he's going to show up for camp. He's going to play. He's going to make his $12 million. But it's going to destroy the relationship with the organization. So we'll see where that goes from there. But to answer the question in terms of the free agent additions, I would argue that I'm excited to see all of them, and I like all of them from this standpoint. I think they all improved upon the players that they've replaced. I'm sorry, I'm not a big Kyle Van Noy fan. I didn't think there was much that he brought to the table. I would rather have Benardrick McKinney than Kyle Van Noy. Adam Butler, statistically, even though Davin Godchaux got paid $8 million to replace him, statistically, Adam Butler was a more productive player in the 4 years that he played for the Patriots than Davin Godchaux was for the Dolphins. Jason McCourty, say what you want, and I have a great deal of respect for Bobby McCain, but Jason McCourty's accomplished way more in his career than Bobby McCain has. And he's a versatile player, even though Bobby's versatile too. And he brings more from a leadership standpoint, not necessarily here, but he brings more to the table as a leader. And then Justin Coleman, I'm a Nick Needham fan. I like Superstar. I love Nick Needham because no matter what odds they put against him, he's like a cockroach. He won't go away. He will always persevere and win whatever job they brought in somebody to replace him. But Justin Coleman's a pretty accomplished nickel cornerback, and he's a clean player. And Nick has got to clean up his game and address his speed deficiencies in order to continue to remain a starter. So I would say, and I would argue, and I have actually written a columnist on Sentinel, I think if Xavier Howard is part of this defense, I think they can be a better defense because the players that you replaced, you improved upon.
Okay, let's go. Next question from Nono. I know the sample is small, but after this minicamp, what has been the most pleasant surprise and the most worrisome one?
I'll start out with the most worrisome one. And to me, it comes down to the growth and development of this offensive line. Yes, I'm talking offensive lines again, Dave. I will say this to you till I don't even know, till the second coming of Jesus.
They weren't in pads, Omar. How can you say it was that worrisome? Give me the answer to that.
Solomon Kinley looks heavy. Now, he always looked heavy, but he looks heavier. And that, I had a problem with him being heavy. Now he's heavier. Like, how in the world are you going to move people? He reminds me so much of John Jerry in terms of, from a pass protection standpoint, he's great because you're not going to move him. But he's not moving anybody in the run game standpoint, and that's what he was brought here to do. And then Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt's making that transition to guard, maybe plays tackle. I like the depth that they have, but that if you thought Robert Hunt was a guard to begin with, why wasn't he playing guard last year? And it's great to say, okay, let's try him at tackle. And I didn't think he did a bad job at tackle, but if your vision was for him to be a guard, why make that move now? Is it because Liam Eichenberg is that good, or DJ Fluker can, add it to the mix and you can start him there? It just didn't make any sense. You you got him experience, but not in the position that he needs to play. To you, Dave, for most pleasant surprises.
Well, I mean, I don't know worrisome, but the most, the one that catches your notice is when your starting quarterback throws 5 interceptions in a practice. Let's just be honest about it, okay? I'm not saying that is a death knell or anything. I don't even know what it means in June, in a June practice, to be honest with you. But you just don't like hearing that. You don't like hearing that. So that's we'll get into that later. But the answer to the most pleasant surprise, Albert Wilson looking healthy. Now, again, it's June. There's no pads. A Dolphin coach once told me, playing football without pads is like playing tennis without a racket. Okay, and that's what we're at. But the point, you're looking at health with Albert Wilson. He played 7 games in 2018. He played 13 in 2019. He sat out last year. So really from him, you're looking at, can he stay healthy? Is he healthy? And he was running around, again, without pads, but he was running around looking like he was healthy. All right, everyone who follows the Dolphins knows this offseason was about giving Tua Tagovailoa the tools and supporting staff to become the quarterback he has the potential to be. What that is, Nobody knows, but we'll soon find out because the Dolphins seemingly improved the offensive line, added 2 draftees, signing 3 former NFL starters. Miami added Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, Hunter Long to his arsenal of receivers, and Miami named co-offensive coordinators to ease the transition after the removal of Chan Gailey, who delivered the best offense, highest scoring in 34 years for the Dolphins. Omar, will this all help Tua become a top 10 quarterback? Let's discuss that.
I don't necessarily know about top 10. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, even though we're kind of going through a transition in terms of quarterbacks now. But I definitely think he should be a top 15 quarterback. I mean, let's put this in perspective. He had a rough rookie season, but still delivered a 5-3 record. I'm not going to count. He does have a 6-3 record technically, but Ryan Fitzpatrick won that Oakland game, that Vegas game. I think that with the speed you added, with the experience and depth that you added to the offensive line, with an offense that's going to probably be juiced up from a running game standpoint, a healthy Myles Gaskins to take some of the pressure off him, I think that he shall be an upper echelon quarterback relatively quickly. Now, will he be top 10 quarterback at the beginning stage of the season, the first 8 games? My answer to that question is probably not. Speed of the game is probably moving too fast. Teams will make adjustments. He must make adjustments. Chemistry still needs to be developed. But I think by the end of the season, I think that you could see Tua be an upper echelon quarterback. And by 2022, I definitely expect it.
Well, that's what this whole rebuild centers on. If he's not, it's a fail. Okay? I mean, that's they all these draft picks, all these salary manipulations, all the 2 past years, even though they beat expectations, the 2 past years of sacrifice were about finding a elite quarterback, not a, the 10th quarterback in the league, an elite quarterback who can take you somewhere. Okay. And this offseason, rightfully so, was about helping him out. Okay. Getting him the receivers, finalizing on an offensive line, hopefully. Hey,
Dave.
Yeah, I'm confused over the 2 offensive coordinators. Neither of them have really been an offensive coordinator.
No. Godsey's been an offensive coordinator. He's fired.
Neither have been an offensive coordinator with an amount of success that you say, okay, that system, he's bringing in a system that works. He's been through it. He's developed quarterbacks. We haven't seen that. So, I do have one question, though, about Tua, and that is, I'm wondering about the coaching at Alabama. I mean, I'm seeing things here that I'm mystified by from a elite college quarterback. He doesn't know how to throw receivers open. He doesn't learn the playbook by his own admission.
Stop, Dave.
These are all breadcrumbs, and
that's not fair, Dave.
What do you mean?
He was apologetic and holding himself to the standard of a 16-year veteran who probably knew the offense better than the offensive coordinator.
Let's just take people at their word, Omar. Let's not try to manipulate what they said. And he said he didn't know the playbook. Now, of course, he didn't know it as well as Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he said, that's on him. And good for he was speaking to the players, I guess, in the locker room, who saw that he didn't know everything that he needed to know. But the point is, that's a good thing that he was accountable. But
do you expect him to execute the offense like Ryan Fitzpatrick? Is that what your expectations were last year?
That's not what he said. That's That's what the media put the comparison on that. He said, I didn't know the playbook. I mean, okay. So my point is, he's putting a lot of attention and pressure on himself to succeed. That's what you want somebody to do.
Absolutely.
You can see him, how he presents himself is very good. And leadership quality, it's all there. He's accurate.
Accountability.
But there are holes in his game, and that's what this year's about.
Yes. This is an important question which comes from Guy. 5 interceptions in practice is terrible. That's not the question. But would Tua benefit long-term from adapting a gunslinger's mentality, Dave?
No.
No?
Be who you are. Quit this. I love the aftermath of the 5 interception day, which again, I have no idea what to make of it. Okay. I'm not going overboard on that. But we told him to really be aggressive and throw the ball. I mean, come on.
Two of them weren't
aggressive. This is the NFL. You're gonna be who you are at this level. Don't all of a sudden say, "Oh, I'm a gunslinger." That's not who he is. He's aggressive. I'm talking about at Alabama. He was aggressive in throwing the ball. But don't all of a sudden come out and say you're Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's not who he is.
I think, and this is a thought, and I watched the practice, and at first I was like, ooh, he tried to put it into a window that really wasn't there. That's the first one. Then the next one was, ooh, great read by the defender. Then the next one was, oh, ball got slipped away by rain. Then the next one was a tip pass. So it snowballed on him. But I will say, it's probably arguably one of the worst quarterback performances I've seen in covering Dolphins practice. And that brings in Brady Quinn, who I thought was the most hideous quarterback ever in Dolphins history.
You set up that whole line to bring in Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn lied and told you he wanted them to throw interceptions, Dave. I couldn't help myself. Like he said, oh, the coaches told me to throw them. No, you're just horrible. But anyway, here's what I saw the next day. And I didn't buy all that, oh, they're telling me to be aggressive. He is trying to see if he can put things in the right window. And there's an accuracy there to him that I love and is intriguing. He throws a lot with art. There's a lot. His best passes have art to them. They don't have zip to them. They don't go boom. 15-yard out is not his throw. But if he has some arc on it, he could put it right into a coffin corner that only his guy can get. And that takes preparation, takes time, takes chemistry, and he's trying to develop that with his weaponry. And I do understand a little bit that if you do not practice it, it's not going to happen. And keep in mind, that was their first practice against defenders, full speed in helmets. So while he's throwing these passes in practice and there's nobody there, now he had to take it to a practice where there's defenders there and to see if he can put it in those tight windows. And it was raining and the footing wasn't great. So
enough of the excuses there. He threw 5 interceptions. And again, I don't know what to make of it. It was a bad.
But he improved on day 2. What we saw, there was an improvement. He fit some of those passes in. And then when they went into the bubble, even though we didn't see it because we're not pool reporters, there was talk of improvement and touchdowns and big plays. And we did, on the outside, see him throw a big play to Jakeem Grant, which was a very pleasant surprise for me because I wondered about the arm strength. So I would say if we're doing this 4 weeks in the training camp, then we should be concerned. But the first actual day that they actually put on pads in a ridiculous rainstorm that looked like a tropical storm, let's let it be.
All right, Black Caesar Luke Fader makes his return here. How long of a leash does Brian Flores give Tua this season? And I'll say a leash going around the world a couple times because let's face it, that he's the whole thing here. So
there is no leash because if that doesn't work, you're pressing the reset button and you're gonna go find and get a new quarterback. Whether it be Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, that's the panic button. You press the panic button if this doesn't work. So I think he plays all 16 games unless he's injured, and you figure out what you are and what you have, and then in 2020, if you don't like what you see, you get aggressive and you move on. And welcome Aaron Rodgers.
I'll say this: if Tua fails, Chris Greer, really, it's Chris Greer's. Chris Greer will go after Deshaun Watson very hard.
Or Aaron Rodgers. Or
Aaron Rodgers, very hard.
Yes.
Because his job will be up for question
Uh-huh.
if he has to go draft another quarterback. Would you trust him to draft another quarterback
Nope.
after
Nope.
if Tua fails?
Nope. Josh Rosen was his first quarterback. I wrote that when they
We're
traded.
on quarterback 3 here of
Yep. No,
and if I'm the owner, I say nope. We're going to somebody else. Thank you very much.
You do not get to pick 3 quarterbacks, not in an organization. I'm sorry. So yeah, I do agree with you, but I'm confident that Tua will succeed if his arm holds up, if his body holds up. And let's cross our fingers that is the case. But we shall see. Black Caesar wants to know, Dave, is center play a concern for the Dolphins going into camp?
Yeah, it is, because you don't have a rock solid answer. You have a few options, and when we know what they are, what you're hoping is one of them comes, either surprises you or in Michael Dieter's case, we don't know exactly what he's been working on behind the scenes this offseason, but comes through. And your investment in him the last couple years comes true. So, it's a concern.
I would argue to you that it is a big concern because it's the only spot on the entire team I can't tell you who's starting at. Matt Skura, veteran guy, played for Baltimore. You're always getting something pretty decent when you play for Baltimore. They're tough, they're physical, but he had some snapping issues. That Michael Dieter struggled as a rookie, sat second year, learn how to play center. And Coach Flores talked about it. He's at a desperate spot in his career. This is the year where he's got to cement himself as an NFL player, or we might see him become a churned product. And then Cameron Tom, a guy who has been churned and is here, and he's going to get an opportunity. If you want that center job, it's up for the grabs, and nobody knows who the heck it's going to be. So I would say it is a concern because it's the one spot. I can tell you who's starting just about at every position. I won't, but I can. I can't tell you who's starting at center.
All right, Dante wants to continue with the O-line talk, meaning Omar really wants to continue with the O-line talk.
These are the questions that we got, Hyde.
I know we don't know who's going to be playing where outside of Austin Jackson at left tackle, but are you comfortable with the line's depth? Not the starting line, but the room in general.
I am. From this standpoint, and this is my thought process on the offensive line, and I've had this thought process since Dallas Thomas traumatized me. You're only as good as your weakest link on the offensive line. And oftentimes that weak link has to be inserted in there because of injury, which is how Dallas Thomas kept getting inserted in there. And he wasn't very good. And if your key backup is an NFL starting caliber player, you're going to be all right. To me, even though I think Jesse Davis is a starter and has starter potential, we know if somebody gets hurt on the offensive line, Jesse's going to move from wherever he is and go patch that leak. And I will argue this and fight to death to people who think Jesse Davis is just some slouch. Name me the game where he's played bad, no matter where he's played. And you can't find one. Not even when he's asked to play left tackle in a pinch with 1 day's notice. You're not going to find a bad Jesse Davis game. It might not be sensational, but it's not bad. And to me, that's a strength. DJ Fluker, veteran starter, 9 years in the NFL, right guard, right tackle. So you at least know you're comfortable on the right side. Just if something happens to the left side, you got to address it. And then Adam Pankey has been a guy that they've invested in for 2 years. And I generally liked what I've seen from him in camp. A lot of times, offensive linemen don't really blossom until their third year. And I think this could be Adam Pankey's year if he's called into duty. So am I comfortable? Absolutely, I'm comfortable. Now, will that mean that the product is good? I think it comes down to the starting, the play of the second-year guys.
Yeah, to me, what I like is that the depth is the numbers and the young players. The idea is developing players, okay? Yeah. And if you're an NFL team, you have to develop offensive linemen because the colleges aren't giving them to you the way you want them. A few schools, the Wisconsins and Notre Dames, you can handpick them. But most schools, aren't giving you the linemen you want, and so it takes a couple years to develop them for an NFL system, NFL techniques, NFL players that they're going against. And so that's what I like, the sheer numbers. And they have invested a lot in this offensive line, and you want to see it should show much more development this year than it did last year when three of the starters were rookies.
Plenty of attention has been paid to the Dolphins offense, but it's been the defense that has carried this franchise for nearly a decade, especially last season where the Dolphins finished sixth in the NFL. A lot of the success was a byproduct of producing turnovers. Xavier Howard had a lot to do with that, producing 11 of them. And the Dolphins led the NFL in turnover. But changes were made, and I argue to you, just as I did in an earlier segment, you've got better pieces on this defense, Dave. Jason McCourty is a superior NFL player to Bobby McCain. Love Bobby McCain, but Jason McCourty's a better player. And Javon Holland is a young, talented second-round pick who is supposed to be better than both of them. Adam Butler has statistically outperformed Davin Godchaux, and his departure opens the door for Raekwon Davis, who, when we saw him replace Godchaux, the defense started to tighten and get better. Jalen Phillips, the University of Miami standout, has a ton of upside, and it's interesting to see who he measures up to, Shaq Lawson or Kyle Van Noy. Obviously, the Dolphins have to find another outside linebacker, pass rusher player to sort of fill that void. And then we've got Justin Coleman coming into the mix as a nickelback. Where do you see this defense taking a step back, Dave, after I just explained to you all the reasons why I think they should take a step forward?
Yeah, and let's start here. Xavier Howard, 10 interceptions. Can you count? And he might have a great year again. He might be healthy all year and be great and not get 10 interceptions. And so,
if you're offense, are you actually throwing to him?
Right, exactly. You've had all offseason to study. You're going to look at your options. We're now, he's going one-on-one. But I agree. But my point to what you said is a lot of their statistical success, sixth best defense, was because of all the turnovers. And Brian Flores, 2 years of changeover, and he's made it work. He's had. I can see tactically, strategically, personnel-wise, he's making decisions that help the Dolphins win games. Turnovers on some part are part of that, but they're also some of it's there's a random quality to the fumble recovery, to interceptions at times, and so I don't know a step back. Can they repeat? Again, like Xavier Howard, 10, can that be repeated 2 years in a row?
And I also believe that they have to get better pressure. They have to find a way to create more pressure. So, part of the success that they've had pressure-wise is because they had a chance to put Xavier on an island and Byron Jones with a little shade help, and Eric Rowe was able to cover his tight end relatively well, and it left Xavier and your nickel cornerback as your only options. So, teams manage, and Jerome Baker's covering the tight end. So, covering the running back. So if you're going to leave teams those options, they're going to have to figure out, and that's the thing, you can't come back and do the same thing again. You can't come back and do these same exotic blitzes again. Teams are to be prepared for it. So it'll be interesting to see what they add to the repertoire and add to the arsenal.
To add to that, they led the league in takeaways last year with 29. Okay, that was a feat of playing, of coaching, of taking advantage of offenses at times or matchups, and can that be repeated? That was a feat.
Definitely. Mike, also known as Killer Smurf, has our next question. So you believe that the fear of speed? So do you believe that the fear of speed will help the run game at least partially, Dave?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, speed helps everything. Defenses are going to have to respect that. Just put it in real simple layman's terms. If you're playing against a receiver who's very fast, you're going to take a step back to protect yourself, and taking a step back is another step that if a running back gets to the second level on a defense, he's going to have more holes, more options to run. So absolutely, speed is and anybody who's played sports and has tried to move up a level and the speed moves up a notch and everything changes for you. What they have put together on a receiving core, to me, it's not the speed. Isn't a question. It's can those guys stay healthy? Can they stay healthy? The speedy guys, the Will Fullers, the Jalen Waddles, can they stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, even if they couldn't stay healthy, Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, Jakeem Grant, Albert Wilson, Lynn Bowden Jr. That's 5 guys. That's 5. Like, when is the last time? And I'm not even talking about the Devontae Parkers, the Preston Williams, the Mike Gesickis, the Mac Hollins. I know people will be like, Mac Hollins. I think Mac Hollins is a pretty important player because he's a great gunner. I think that, and I will say this, and I challenge anybody to prove me wrong. I think talent-wise, this is the best collection. Yeah, everybody's got to stay healthy. But let me say this. Talent-wise, this might be the best receiving core the Dolphins have had in quite a while, decades. Talent-wise. Now, yeah, health-wise, they're probably the worst because nobody can stay healthy. But if Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Will Fuller, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle are on the same field together, how do you really defend that? That's not even including the Jakeem Grants, the Albert Wilsons, the Lynn Bowden Juniors. Like they got a lot of weaponry, man. And, there shouldn't be any excuse why they can't deliver points and touchdowns and first downs and red zone execution because the resources are there. Just hell from the tight end. They're about 4 deep at tight end. The biggest weakness is running back, and Myles Gaskin has proven he's a pretty good running back, statistically wise, 90 yards total offensive game. So I'm curious to see if Tua can make it come together.
That offseason optimism, I'm hearing it in your voice, Omar. I'm hearing it.
I'm selling hope, Dave? Is that what you're doing?
You got it. It's working.
The talent is there. Will Fuller's shown you what he's done in Houston. Jalen Waddle, Jesus Christ. The guy's limping around and still catching 50-yard passes. Like what, Jakeem Grant, when he catches the ball, he's pretty damn fast. Albert Wilson, he led the NFL in yards after the catch in 2018. Lynn Bowden Jr., we saw what he did. Young guy, but, he's hard to tackle. He's a run after catch specialist. So and we've seen what Preston Williams has done. We know what Devontae Parker can do when both of them are healthy. Mike Gesicki, goodness gracious. Hunter Long, I was intrigued with what he did during OTAs, and I like his makeup. A good a good tight end who's not only been a tight end, but he's an inline guy. So I'm like, they got weaponry.
All right, Omar, 2 Gypster has a good question. Who do you think will be missed the most next season from the players that left the Dolphins this offseason?
I got to give it to my guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The old man. Listen, put some respect on the old man's name.
I was turned 180 degrees on Ryan Fitzpatrick in his 2 years. Okay, I thought so go ahead.
Playoff team just signed this man and gave him a $10 million contract and said, lead us to the playoffs, Ryan. Like, how can people not put some respect on what he's done here in his 2 years before getting benched for Tua? And we all know what that was about. Ryan was a fling. We're in a long-term relationship here. But I keep thinking about that fling, Dave. I keep thinking about the gunslinger. And I liked Ryan. I thought he was a very good player. And obviously the Washington football team thinks he's a good player too.
But, Omar, look at the question. Who will be missed the most? What you're saying...
Did I stutter, Dave?
No, listen, if you're saying Ryan Fitzpatrick will be missed the most from this team, what you're saying is Tua is not ready to step into the job.
Tua is not ready to step into his job and perform at his level.
Ryan was playing he better be better than Ryan Fitzpatrick this year. I mean, let's. I liked Ryan Fitzpatrick. But he's on his ninth team now. I mean, he's 38. If your franchise quarterback can't beat out isn't better. If you're going to miss a 38-year-old guy in his ninth team, and I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you're going to miss that guy, that doesn't say enough about. He
helped Myles Gaskin become the player he is. He helped the Mike Gesicki. His blossoming was Mike Gesicki.
It's time for Tua to help those guys. It's time for him to make those guys blossom. And if you look back at Game 6 and say, boy, they really miss Ryan Fitzpatrick, wow, that's a comment on Tua and not on Ryan Fitzpatrick. So my point is they better not miss Ryan Fitzpatrick this year.
I'm interested to see how that pans out, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was added to a playoff team, and they might win that division. So if you're expecting him to just go into the night and be forgotten forever, he might be the reason Washington makes the playoffs because they looked at him as an upgrade.
Absolutely, I agree. My point, though, is you drafted Tua to be your franchise quarterback. He better be better than Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point. I mean, that's just simple. So, okay, OG Highway has an important question. If Mike Gesicki balls out this year, does that actually hurt his chances of staying as a Dolphin player?
Well, I think that this comes down to how much money are you going to pay Mike Gesicki? And it's a discussion and a debate that I've had within myself multiple times, and I don't know if I can come up with a clear-cut answer. Because what is he? He's a slot receiver. He's not a tight end. But you're going to have to pay him like a tight end. Well, the Patriots just set the market at tight end at $10.5 million this offseason. I don't want to pay Mike Gesicki $10.5 million. So what I'm probably going to do, and probably what the Dolphins are going to do, is I'm going to make sure that every player that I need to sign is signed, and that includes maybe Emmanuel Ogbah gets a new deal instead of playing on $7.5 million, because I probably want to use that franchise tag on Mike Gesicki. And the franchise tag in 2022 for tight ends is $9.6 million. So I'm probably going to use that franchise tag, buy myself some time so I could figure out what he is, whether I need him, if the shoulder is healthy. I think the Dolphins, this is not a situation where you're going to see the Dolphins signing like a Jerome Baker. I always thought in my mind that they were going to either sign one and not the other. And it was interesting when they did decide to sign Jerome Baker and give him a $10.4 million deal instead of giving Mike Gesicki a $10.4 million deal. It was very telling to me.
Yeah, I just want a side note here. The Emmanuel Ogbah wants more money. I would too if I was him. But you know what? I really like that the Dolphins haven't just bent over. Remember in 2016, Adam Gaze's first year, they gave everybody more money. Everybody got a good year. Oh, this is our core now. This is our core. And what happened? They collapsed because that was for their career years. They got their money. Okay, so I like the restraint on contracts like this. Okay, and if a guy like Ogbah proves it 2 years in a row, okay, then we're on to something. But that's a side note. The question for Gesicki, and you usually frame it this way, Omar, and I'm surprised you didn't there, is he's not a blocker, okay? And I get the feeling, just reading between lines, talking to people, is some on the coaching staff have a increasing problem with that. They want a guy who he can be a functional blocker. And if so
Mike Gesicki is on the field, and I say this all the time, and this is at the fundamental core of my issue with Mike Gesicki. If he's on the field, I know it's a pass. And so does the opposing defense. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Okay, Dendrick has our final question. If the Dolphins get some solid edge play this year, do you believe this group could be the best defense you've ever covered?
No. We had some Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, Patrick Surtain, Sam Madison defenses that were some killer defenses. I wouldn't even put that disrespect in my mouth. They While the Dolphins did spend most of the year as the number 1 or number 2 defense before they pooped the bed against Buffalo in the season finale and finished 6th, I think somebody has to step up and become another edge player. While Emmanuel Ogbah did get 9 sacks, a lot of those were free rushers created by blitz. Why would defenses let Emmanuel Ogbah be a free rusher? I have no idea, but that's on them. Jalen Phillips has got to have a good rookie season. I look at him as the guy who's going to replace Shaq Lawson, as the guy who's going against the left tackle. Challenging left tackles is never an easy challenge. And then the question is, who steps up after that? Andrew Van Ginkel. Jerome Baker is a good blitzer. Hopefully they allow him to do that more. But then you have to have a guy who can drop back and cover those tight ends. So maybe that's Benardrick McKinney. So it's going to be a very interesting mix. And I'm extreme. Vince Beagle comes back. And we know Vince Beagle had a productive, impressive year in 2019. Now he's coming back from that Achilles injury.
They're going to do it. They're going to do it strategically, Omar. They're going to plot that blitz.
Yeah,
right? That's what this is all about, right? They do have a lot of pieces. They have some interesting pieces, but they don't have that one guy that all the offenses, when they come to the line, have to point to and say, "Where's he?" Okay, and a Jason Taylor, you talk defenses that are great and sustain their greatness have a couple players like that, and when they develop those players, if they develop them, then we're going to be into that best defense I've ever covered department.
Well, we thank you for watching X's and Omar's a special off-season edition. We will be back when training camp rolls around. Training camp, I believe, starts July 27th. It's going to be open to the public in Miami Gardens. At the team's new facility. It'll be interesting to see what comes about of this new team, new facility, new players, hopefully playoff bound. For Dave Hyde, Omar Kelly, Sun Sentinel, this is X's and Omar's. You can find us on the Sun Sentinel website and anywhere you stream your podcasts.